Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is an immense pleasure for me to introduce our guest for today's episode in Thriving in Construction, the podcast. Calling Jacksonville her home for the past 10 years, Lieutenant Colonel Evans is a pioneer for women in combat leadership roles, making history by becoming the first female company commander in 3 different organizations. Moreover, she is the owner and president of a Florida-certified general contractor and roofing company. Let's all welcome Lieutenant Elizabeth Evans, founder and CEO of E2 Homes and E2 Roofing. Welcome to Thriving in Construction, the podcast. Elizabeth Evans, I'm so proud of you. And I have to say, thank you for your service.
Absolutely. And thanks for asking me to be here, Patricia. I'm really excited.
Well, Betsy, I would like our audience to understand a lot about your background, what got you into construction. You have an amazing journey. You're a fabulous woman. You're a fighter. You thrive in every area of your life. I mean, you're an impressive person. From the moment I met you, I don't know, 10 years ago, 8 years ago.
At least 10, yeah.
I was impressed by your journey and your character, how smart you are, your dedication to excellence. For me, it's a nonstop to talk about you. So can you please give us some background as to who you are and what got you here?
Sure, absolutely. So, there's the short version and then there's a little bit longer version. So I'll land somewhere in between. So I grew up not really knowing what I wanted to do. And I was an avid tennis player. And so that was going to guide where I went to college, was where I could go and play Division I tennis. And so I was at a tennis tournament in Kentucky. The coach from West Point, the United States Military Academy, was there and he was recruiting my opponent. And as soon as my mom found that out, she said, "You need to talk to this guy too." And so fast forward that, went to West Point, played tennis there, tried to figure out what it was that I would major in, and what would be my place within the military. And that's when I learned about engineering. And everyone graduates from West Point with a degree in engineering. And so for me, civil engineering made the most sense because I really enjoyed the mathematical and logical nature of it. And I'd always been fascinated with buildings, from architecture, engineering, how they get put together, et cetera. And then the Army Corps of Engineers, that's what they do. So it made sense to me. So I majored in civil engineering and went on to serve in the active duty Army. And about 5 years into my service, I realized that 80% of the construction assets for the Army Corps of Engineers are in the Guard and Reserve. And so I made the decision to transfer from the active duty to the Florida National Guard. And, I did it as a part-time job, 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks in the summer. And, really started getting my feet underneath me and learning what it meant to be a construction manager and professional. And so I went to work for a home builder, then followed on with a roofing company, then went to work for a commercial developer building public space shopping centers, learning all sorts of great techniques and protocols along the way. And when the recession hit, Florida, it hit hard. And so by the end of 2009, I was looking for a job in a market where everyone had been laid off. And the Florida National Guard said, "Well, why don't you come on board and be a contracting officer and then take over as our, in charge of our construction department?" And so I did that. And that's where you and I met, so many years ago. So I was with them from 2009 till 2012. And then I went back to active duty for a short stint and was an aide to the chief of engineers, to the deputy chief of engineers in DC. And then when I came back, I said, it's time to go back to the private sector. And, still staying with my Guard service, still serving 1 weekend a month, moving up the ranks, in the engineering community. But I really wanted to get back to larger scale construction projects. And so I went to go work for a national mechanical company. in the refrigeration and HVAC business. And after that, for a couple of years, they were private equity owned. I said, what am I doing? I like to create and build teams, lead people, work with other veterans. What if I started my own company? And so in 2017, I did. I launched E2 Design and Construction for Elizabeth Evans. And we started off with doing some renovation projects, scaled into, I got my roofing license, and we have a roofing division now. And most recently in the past year, actually 18 months, we've started doing really high scale custom homes. And so we have 2 underway right now. We're acquiring property for the next 2. And in the past 6 months, we grew our business to Nashville. So we have E2 Roofing in Nashville off the ground and running here where I'm talking to you from now.
Nashville, nice. When you're talking about your life in through the National Guard, we haven't talked in a little bit of time because I know you've been busy with your company, and rightfully so. But one of the hurricanes that we had a few years ago that really affected South Florida, I know you were leading that recovery effort. And I never got to talk to you about what does it mean to go to the Keys and see the devastation that you were able to see. And can you talk to us a little bit about that? Because you're not only an engineer, and you're not only a builder, but there's more to what you do. And that's why I'm always fascinated with your presence.
It's very interesting. So if I look back over my career, which has included deployments overseas for the war on terror, deployment down to Central America, training our partners down there, and activating for hurricanes, I can confidently say the most rewarding mission that I've done in my career was leading the recovery efforts for Irma. And that's because the Keys hold like such a special place in my heart, and the fact that as a guardsman, you get to serve the fellow citizens of your state. So you really are there in their most pressing time of need. And so I was sitting by the pool on Labor Day of 2017 and had a friend over, and her kids were playing in the pool. And I was just kind of scrolling the news, and I'm like, there's something about this storm. I think I need to call my sergeant major, and we need to start alerting people to come to the armory. And so we did on Labor Day. And our armory was in Tallahassee, and we're the only engineer battalion in the state. So this is the only place you get engineer equipment is from the battalion that I commanded. And it is a very long distance from Tallahassee when you have equipment, construction equipment on flatbeds. So we pulled everyone in, loaded everything up, and then we went down and staged in between Naples and Miami in a town called Sebring, because I wanted to get as close as I could to where the storm was going to impact without putting the equipment at risk, and not knowing if it was going to come up through Naples and Fort Myers or if it was going to come up through Miami, Fort Lauderdale. So I staged in Sebring, and then I took an element forward to Fort Lauderdale and reached out to an old West Point alumni and friend of mine who was the director of public works. I said, Keith, I'm here with this engineer equipment. I need to stage in case I have to get into the Keys really quick. Where in Fort Lauderdale can I stage? And he said, come over to the executive airport. I'll meet you there. You can stage there. You guys can sleep on the ground of the executive airport. And then as soon as daybreak hits, you can take off. And so that's what we did. So that's what allowed us to be there so quickly after the storm passed. Was I was sitting there waiting in Homestead right after the storm passed. And they said, you have to go. You have to clear the roads because we can't get first responders in. And so we literally in 24 hours took an element and cleared the entire US 1 from Homestead through Key Largo, all the way to Key West. And as we cleared that with our equipment, doing our best to test a bridge before we all went over the bridge after, a Category 4 and 5 hurricane, there was a lot of prayers, but we made it to Key West. But at the end result is you had 8 to 10 feet of just debris on either side of that path that we created, but it allowed the first responders to get in. So that was our initial role. The National Guard is there as a first responder. We're there to provide immediate aid, life-saving measures to allow the local community to stand back up and help the people within their communities once they're safe. So that was the initial part of the mission. That lasted about 3 weeks. We slept on cots in the Home Depot parking lot down in Key Largo. And worked every day to help create passage and clear streets for first responders to get in. And then the second 3 weeks of that mission turned into helping create shelter for people because there wasn't hotels that you could dislocate people to while their homes were destroyed. So it was gutting of homes, clearing out wet drywall so that the black mold wouldn't come in. And so that's where it really started to dive into my job as a contractor, is that, it's very interesting that the National Guard is going to do these immediate life-saving measures, but now we're clearing out houses. And it was just that extreme of a circumstance. But there is just such significant overlap in my two career fields. One of the questions that, you and I have talked about is, how do you do all of it? It's going in so many different directions, but because of that overlap, it really just feels like that's the most fulfilling part of my life, is being able to serve, as an Army officer, as an engineer. And then, the part of my business, that's service too, because what I'm doing is residential construction, which is providing a service to others.
Yes. And in the home, right? The most important thing for all, it's a need, right?
That's
creating
right.
homes and creating for families.
That's right.
It's fascinating. When I knew you were there, I knew we were taken care of. So, you make me feel that we're in good hands. So I am very grateful for what you do.
Thank you.
So tell me this. So the 17, you're in this mission that you didn't plan for, but you also started your company.
Right.
So what was that about? I mean, you start the company and now you're deployed for 6 weeks.
Yes.
Right.
And that's been my shortest deployment since I started the company. Yes, I activated March 10th for COVID, March 10th of 2020. I was on orders for COVID. I had moved on to a different position. I was the J5, or the strategic planner for the state. So when COVID started, the general came to me and he said, "Colonel Evans, what is the plan?" I'm like, "What is the plan for what?" He's like, "What is the plan for COVID?" I said, "Well, I don't know, General." And he said, "Well, that's your job. You have 24 hours to tell me what our plan is to support the governor in mass testing." And so I said, "Okay, well, I'm fortunate enough to have, super smart people that work on my team." And so we locked ourselves in a room for 24 hours. And I said, "You can leave to use the restroom. We're getting food delivered. We have 24 hours to come up with a plan as to how we're going to test this state." And it was a lot of spitballing, a lot of whiteboards, and a lot of putting diagrams together, and would this work and would that work, et cetera. And we finally came up with the only place that's large enough in every metropolitan area to have a high volume of traffic come through and test people is football stadiums. I said, we've got an NFL stadium in Miami, in Tampa, we've got the Orange Bowl in Orlando, we've got Jacksonville, we've got the Jaguar Stadium. I said, that hits all our metropolitan areas. That takes the biggest chunk out first. Then we can take the next echelon, and look at high school stadiums in these smaller towns that don't have an NFL stadium, or college stadiums. And so that concept was born right there on like March 12th. And now you can go anywhere all over the country and you see football stadiums where they're vaccination sites. They were testing sites all through that. So that's a part of my National Guard job that is not the same as construction, but it's that problem solving that engineers have. How do I solve this problem? What's the methodology? How do we do it the smartest way? And so I started on orders for COVID March 10th. July 1st, I get a phone call. "Hey, you've been selected for the Joint War College. It's a year in Norfolk, Virginia." Okay. When do I have to report? July 13th. So 12 days later, I leave, move to Norfolk. I'm in Norfolk for a year. So at this point, by the time I graduate War College at the end of June, I have been away from my companies for 16 months, completely running the businesses remotely. While in a master's producing curriculum, it was 10 times harder than West Point. I mean, it was an incredibly challenging curriculum, but it's a requirement once you reach the rank of colonel to go to War College. And it happened that quick. So we talk about resilience and, during the pandemic and the things that we've had to alter within the construction industry. I would argue that my employees, felt that 10 times, because now their person, that was their supervisor, their coach, their cheerleader is completely gone with no notice for 15 months. And so what the companies have come out of this is that, I've just seen personal and professional growth in my employees that's second to none. And so I'm very fortunate to have the people that I do on my team.
Yes, absolutely. We can't do anything without the people and the team.
That's right.
It doesn't matter how good we are. There's nothing, a company cannot, especially in this industry. I tell people, you can buy all the material you want. It can be on time. You can put it on the side and it can be there. And if you don't have the right people and the right team with the right culture, it's not going to translate to good outcomes.
That's right.
How important is culture for you in your, I mean, you come from the military background, so you have a lot of training about that. You have a lot of training about defining outcomes and strategy. How important is the culture of the team for the success or to achieve the outcome that you set yourself for?
Oh, it's incredibly important. You can't survive without it. I talk a lot about positive energy and negative energy and how that's contagious. The tone that I've set with my companies is, you don't work for me, I work for you. So what can I do to facilitate your growth? What additional training can I provide for you? Are we making sure that we're offering the correct health insurance plans? Do we have the correct work-life balance? People have, children with exceptional needs, or they have sports practices. How can we be flexible to meet that so that we retain employees that are so incredible? And so the culture at our company is, one of respect and transparency. Because what I've always thought is transparency builds trust. And so when you are commanding or leading an organization from several hundred miles away, I have to trust what they're briefing to me or what they're telling me is the truth. And they have to trust in me when I said 2 years ago, guess what? I'm buying this property, this property, this property, and I'm designing plans for this home, this home, this home, and we're going to sell it. And they're like, that's a lot of money. We're a small company. And I said, just believe me, we will build it and it will sell. And it's worked. Now we're in a fantastic real estate market. So, that's very fortunate for us, but we were strategic. We bought property at the beach. There's only so much property at the beach. It's a finite amount. And so, but that was a big pivot for our company to do that. And so my employees trust me that I have their best interests in mind as well. And so I argue that culture is incredibly important within an organization.
Yes, absolutely. And that's been my experience, especially when you grow and, there's different levels of growth for the entrepreneur and as well for the company. As the company grows from a child or an infant, you go through all these stages. A lot of times we don't grow or the team doesn't grow at the same pace, right? So sometimes there's culture shifts. And also if you didn't have that in mind when you were setting your company, I want to ask you, when you find an employee that is not working for you, it's not a fit for the company, and it happens to everyone.
Right.
What is your approach?
So, if they were a direct report of mine, right? So we'll run it through that scenario. So let's say they were a direct report of mine. I'd ask them, to sit down for a cup of coffee, probably offsite from the office. Hey, come meet me for a cup of coffee at Starbucks. Some place that it's not, other people can't see me having a conversation with that employee. And just report my observations to them. Hey, you have the capability of doing this, but I've seen a slide. You're not doing your daily reports. You're not doing your toolbox talks. Subcontractors are saying you're not getting back to them in a timely manner. Is there something going on outside of work that is causing this distraction? I'm not going to ask to get in your business, but is there another factor that I should acknowledge? Because the pandemic has done crazy things to people, right? You're worried that your kids are going to be out of school, because there's another COVID case. You're having to homeschool them. You're having to figure that out. There's shortages of material, shortages of certain foods that people like, and so it's just created stress. So I want to, first examine, is there something else out there that's causing that? And then my second question is there something else that we're not providing for you to help you be successful? Is there a technology tool? Are you not getting clear direction from me? Is my guidance unclear? Are my expectations unrealistic? Because I really want to eliminate everything else and not have the employee feel you're failing. It's your fault. And this is your first warning. And if we have to have this conversation again, it's potential termination. Because they're not solving anything because you're only seeing things from one perspective. So I want to create the environment that I have all the data points that then I can help put together a plan for that person to help them improve. And then if they still don't at that point, I know for a fact that I've done what I could do to help that person be successful at our company. And maybe it's just not the right fit.
That's the approach. That's the approach. So give me perspective. You've been in multiple roles. You've been working for the government and you have your company. So what's the difference? You became an entrepreneur. Tell me about your experience of the industry as an entrepreneur
And in contrast with what you had been in the past, in a government and in entity that never runs out of money, you have a lot of support, you have all the support you need, you are required to do things and in extreme circumstances. What's the contrast? Pros and cons? Give us perspective, because I've never been in your shoes.
Right. So the government side, right? So it's very bureaucratic. There's a lot of rules, different colors of money, when you can use money. And then you don't really have any control over how long it takes the government to pay the people that are doing projects for you. So you don't really hit that button. That's a whole nother part of the government. And so you're trying to build these relationships with your vendors. You're trying to create, quality products, but you don't really control all the pieces of the pie. And again, there's a lot of bureaucracy. The nice thing about that situation is you wear a rank. So everywhere you go, people know what your rank is. And with that comes an automatic, this person knows this much, they're an expert in this field, they're senior, it just commands a level of respect. And I'll say that when I started my company, obviously I'm in civilian clothes. And, I have my first interaction with a homeowner 6 months in that's really upset about something, upset that their project wasn't done in a certain amount of time, upset that somebody, shirt was untucked in their house, or whatever their problem was, right? They're really upset. And they are talking to me like I am a third-class citizen. You're just an idiot contractor. It's this feeling of all contractors are, out there to get people's money and this and that. I'm like, wow, this is crazy, because they don't know my background. I don't have something that shows them this is who I am. Here's my legitimacy. And I will say, as a female, it's very interesting, because in a lot of meetings, I will bring my general manager or my roofing division manager with me, and we'll go in to negotiate pricing with a material supplier or to meet a new contact in the insurance industry or what have you. And we go into the meeting, and that person we're meeting with has constant eye contact with my general manager, with the man. And I'm like, hello, over here.
I'm here.
I am me too. Like the buck stops here. So
I'm the owner, by the way. But
yes.
That.
You can have these wonderful conversations with Toby or with Chris or with Ryan and really try and make sure that you're getting through to them. But they're not the decision maker seated at this table. But it's just, but that's something you don't realize when you come from the military and go into civilian life, that these are some of the kind of things that you'll have to kind of navigate through, because you don't have that immediate identification of who you are and what your qualifications are.
That's happened in the government. So I haven't been in the military, but I was the head of construction for the city of Fort Lauderdale. So I do understand that level of thebureaucracy. And you're right. And what you're saying happens to me. I go to a conference, people are coming to say hi to me. And there's this group of people, let's say someone that doesn't know me, and Emilio and I, my partner, are there. They don't talk to me. They talk to me.
Right.
And it's so funny because, Emilio knows me we met at a project. So we know each other for 20 years. And so he understands my capability, of course. Right. And he probably is one of my biggest fans. But these people direct the conversation to him, and I'm there, like I don't exist. And I know what they're thinking is, she's the accountant, maybe the girl of the guy. Right. Or I don't know what the hell is going through their heads, but they have no clue. They don't even think you are the owner. That's no idea at all. And when after half an hour, because I'm the type that I don't demand leadership. I don't demand respect. I know the truth always is there available. But Emilio becomes a little bit itchy, and he's like, she's the president, right? And he started marketing me. He's like, she's an engineer, and because he feels bad. And I always tell him, I get upset. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. They'll know. Sometimes I like to be undercover, Right. Sometimes I do. Sometimes it's better. That's okay too. I'll go out to our job sites and check on our roofing crews from time to time. And it's a crew that I might not have worked with before. And of course, I know enough Spanish to get myself through a roofing site. And so it's interesting to listen to the things that are said, that they're trying to figure out who I am, and obviously in Spanish.
And then, I'm like, hi, I'm Elizabeth. I brought you guys some Gatorades. It's a super hot day today. Thanks for what you're doing. And, when they finally make the connection, it's like the light bulb goes off and they're like, oh, well, we better look like know what we're doing really quickly. Everybody get tied off, So it's a fun experience.
And I think we have to do more still about, on the area of diversity and inclusion in our industry. From what I heard the last time, about 10% of the industry is women. Mostly it's still male dominated. So, we see more women, but many don't understand what their contribution could be to the industry. Some people think, when you're in the industry, you're just in the field as a laborer or something like that. But there's not a lot we haven't done enough marketing for people to understand that this could be a great industry for many women or people that are not in the industry. So on that line of talking, I want to bring the topic of the shortage of labor that we have, where our industry has been suffering from talent, not only in the managerial area, but also in the field. And you own a roofing company, which requirements on labor on roofing are huge. How are you solving that problem? How are you approaching it? What's your strategy moving forward? What are you thinking in terms of solving the issue or the gap created by the shortage of labor?
It's a great question. And it doesn't just affect the construction industry. Every industry out there is struggling to find people to work, whether that's retail, hospitality, you name it, unless you're talking to Amazon. Amazon's probably the only people that are not struggling to find people because they have a gazillion dollars to offer and set, minimum pay rates that are much higher than what small business can offer. It is challenging. It's challenging on internal employees, recruiting and retaining internal employees. It's challenging when I'm trying to scale my business and there's work out there. There's people that want me to do the work, but I can't find the right people that are the interface of my company, the salesman that's interfacing with a customer, that's completing the estimate, et cetera. So that's a gap for us. And we've used consultants, to help us with estimates because, I can't not service the community's needs. So it's definitely a challenge for finding people that you want when you're trying to scale a business. It's a challenge for our subcontractors because I need the plumber, I need the electrician, I need the HVAC. And they're in such extreme high demand because in each of those industries, they've just continued to reduce as people that served in these industries for 30, 40, 50 years retire. And so we don't have the same number of people going into these industries. So that is a scarcity. Our roofing crews, very confident with our roofing crews, but I can't scale them quick enough. So where I have 13 people working today, I could put 23 to work next week. But finding those in such a field where I have to trust that they're doing the right thing. Because if you don't install the roof correctly and it leaks again, you are now affecting someone's largest investment they will ever make in their life, their home. And so there's a lot of trust that goes into roofing crews. So it is a challenge. I think we continue to push the word out. We are going to hire our first intern from the University of North Florida. He actually comes from Columbia. This is his second degree that he's going after with construction management. He's going to work with us 2 days a week, starting next week until he finishes his degree in the spring. And so I see that as a potential glide path for how we recruit employees is, offer these internships, train them, work with them, expose them. And then if they decide to work with us at the end of it, now I've got somebody that's already trained. That's kind of our next evolution of how we're looking at things.
Yeah, that's definitely some of the challenges we have. But for us, interns and kids that come out of college, it have been probably one of our best investments. Plus, you're helping bridge the gap between academia and the industry.
Yes.
And we go to school. You're an engineer, but you don't learn how to build in engineering school.
No.
So that there's so much to learn in our industry. And unfortunately, we use the School of Hard Knocks that costs a lot of money to learn.
Yes.
So one topic that I'm very interested to discuss with you is diversity and inclusion. For me, diversity and inclusion is more than what most people talk about. For me, when everyone in a company looks like the owner, mm-hmm. Let's say my own company, you could say, well, I believe in diversity and inclusion and I hire all the women. Everyone here is a woman. I'm missing out. I am missing, this is not a diverse company. the fact that I hire a ton of women doesn't mean that I believe in diversity, because I'm not really including what the world is it's about, right? I think we're missing out if we don't include, right, and we don't have a diverse group of people, not only in the way they look, but also in terms of the experience, the background, where they come from, what they, we're missing out. And in terms of innovation, what's your take on that?
Oh, I agree wholeheartedly. There's a concept of groupthink. And if you have too many people that are like-minded, look alike, then they don't come up with new ideas because they fall victim to this groupthink methodology. And so when you have people that come from different backgrounds, how they grew up, where they grew up, where they worked before, where they went to school, what other industries have they worked in, they come in with different ideas. And what's been interesting to me is some of our employees that have come from outside the construction industry, and they've come to the company and they've said, hey, let me tell you about this benefits package that we had, or this tuition reimbursement package we had at my other company, or we used to do these quarterly events where we'd go out to a minor league baseball game all as a team, these team building events. And so they've brought a lot of other ideas that really help the culture of our company evolve. So, and it's also, my homeowners are diverse. I can be putting a roof on a trailer on a Tuesday, and on Wednesday, I am starting a $3 million home's roof at the beach. So, totally different walks of life, totally different people. But, my team knows that, number one, we're always going to be a professional. But number two, you are a chameleon. So you are going to adapt, shift, move, know your audience, be able to have a conversation, because it's the same thing I do in the military. Whether I'm talking to a private that needs to correct himself for some reason, or I'm making a brief or a report to the general on something, I'm going to treat both with respect. They're going to get the same amount of attention from me, but I'm certainly going to be a chameleon. And how I shape that conversation with a private, it's going to be totally different than how I shape a conversation with the general. And so I fully agree with you. Diversity and inclusion is very important to our industry. So
you're talking about chameleon, and I believe we need a lot of that in construction. That is, we're really solving problems, and sometimes you don't know what direction the issue is going to come from, and the outcome doesn't change. So, the term resilience comes to mind, and I am a firm believer that we need more of that, and actually that probably is something. I've heard already resilience. Construction. So and I want to take you a little bit into the future, 5 years, 10 years from now, where do you see our industry with all the changes that we've had with COVID, the environment? Where do you see the industry going? And how do we need to adapt to what's coming?
Right. So two things. What goes up must come down, right? We've seen that with the economy in the United States for decades. We are in an incredible market now. We've seen the cost of lumber go down. We've seen material availability start to increase coming, as factories get back online. The labor shortage continues to be a challenge. But, we have had to demonstrate resiliency all through this pandemic. We've had to change our contracts with homeowners and add escalation clauses, because we can't predict what something will cost 6 to 12 months from now. So if I think out 5 to 10 years from now, we have had such a high, such a bull market with real estate prices going up, with, just heavy investment into construction, cities expanding like crazy, that at some point it will go down, right? And so we all have to make sure that we're diversified enough as our own companies so that we can weather the storm when that happens. Just like you doing government work is just like me doing insurance work, because I will work for an insurance company to replace roofs, because those happen regardless of the economy, because the insurance company is paying for it. So I think that diversification and being able to be resilient through the next downturn is step one. Step two is we cannot shy away from the knowledge that climate change is real and it's here to stay. And the storms that will continue to plague the southeastern United States are going to maintain and increase over the next 5 to 10 years. So what are we doing for our businesses to make sure that we can withstand the storm, and then we can be part of the recovery efforts, right? And kind of my final thought is artificial intelligence. So the role of AI, there's been a significant amount of investment. You talk about a Tesla roof system. What other things, what are the smart features in a home and a building and building management system are we going to see, tied into artificial intelligence? We have to be at the leading edge of technology, and we have to constantly be learning and keeping ourselves up to date on that so that we don't get left behind as technology continues to increase at the speed of light in construction.
Right. Have you heard, I don't know if you're using this technology, but drones to measure the roofs? Have you been using that?
Yes. So after Hurricane Michael hit, that's the one that hit Mexico Beach in the Panhandle in 2018. I deployed 4 people out there, and we worked for an insurance company, and we flew drones all day long, created drone photo reports, estimated the roof damage. There were 4K photos. They could click a link and drill right down into those photos so that they could make their determinations on insurance coverage without ever leaving their office in Palm Beach. And so we are huge fans of drones. I enjoyed using drones because it relieves me that's one less person on a roof. And, being on roofs is dangerous business. Any given day, you could have an issue. And so the drones also help us be able to show a homeowner on an iPad, here's the photo report from your roof. And these are all the pictures that we took, and here's the spots that are an issue. And so that's very helpful for us as well.
Excellent. No, we definitely have to be constantly innovating. And what are you doing now to market your company, to innovate, to prepare yourself for a downturn? I know you mentioned insurance, but you have a number of people already working with you. You have a staff, you have an overhead. What are you doing that is going to set you apart or prepare you for the next wave, wherever it comes from?
So, we talked a little bit about the custom homes division and how I acquired property that's at the beach. That is a finite amount of land. Unless you are buying homes to tear them down, there's only a finite amount of land that is undeveloped, in our coastal areas. It's also a demographic that people are willing to spend between $1 million and $4 million on a home because it's either their final home or they're relocating to Florida from another state where the cost of living was so much higher there. And so I know even with a downturn that those projects will be successful. Whether they make the same amount of margin, they may not. But at the end of the day, I could also, since we own the land and I'm building the homes, with our liquidity, I can also hold the homes until the market improves. Right. So, there isn't a requirement there on the balance of our other work. So we have done our best to diversify ourselves with, a government sector, which the government actually does quite well whenever the United States is in a recession. So we have that. And then we have, the insurance contacts. So regardless, climate change is real. We are a preferred vendor for 21 different insurance companies. And when disaster strikes, we're there to help them. But when disaster doesn't strike and it's just a daily claim, we're there to help them as well. So I feel pretty well positioned that even if there is a downturn, the company is well enough diversified to withstand it.
Awesome. And if there's someone listening to you that wants to start their own company, whether it's a government official or just someone that has been in the industry for a while, 5-10 years, and acquire some experience, or maybe not, what would be the path that you would suggest, considering you've been very successful, but you've also made mistakes? What would you advise so that they don't make the same mistakes you made?
I think, the business plan is so important, right? So how am I going to get from A to B? And setting a pro forma for your first year. What is the revenue I have to make in order to afford the overhead that I'm going to withstand? I started the company, I had $100 in a checking account. I didn't take out some loan to start the company, but I also didn't take a salary from the company for 2 years. As I grew, I added employees, and I always made sure that I had enough coming in that I could afford that employee. And so when I finally started taking a salary 2 years ago, it's still a pretty small salary in comparison to, what other people could do, but I've kept all the money in the business. I haven't gone out and bought outlandish things. I haven't, you see people that they start seeing the bank accounts go up. They get to the end of the year, they pay their taxes and they're like, hey, I've got all this leftover money. What can I go spend it on? And it's like, no, reinvest it in the business. That is your nest egg so that if there's a downturn, if there's some other challenge that your predicted numbers aren't your actual numbers, 6 to 8 months from now, you're going to be okay.
Perfect. So keep the money in the company and reinvest. Any other advice?
Be resilient. The last corporate company I worked for was owned by private equity. And if you've ever worked for private equity, it is a very negative culture and it is intense. It is, 60-hour weeks. I don't care. It's the weekend. You're getting a phone call. You got to get this fixed, get on a plane, go fix this. Yeah. It's a very intense culture. It's very financially rewarding. They pay quite well, but it is that intensity. And so when I started the company, you fall into a trap that you'll just work yourself to death, right? Because you're like, it's my money. Like, I can't lose this. This is my money. And so you have to kind of go through that evolution of, pulling yourself out of being the person doing everything and pull yourself back, because it's your job to see where you need to be 5 years from now and lay that path out and let your employees do the work along the way. And so I think that was a great lesson for me to learn over the last couple of years. And it's allowed me to do other things, spend time with family and still continue my military career.
Are you still playing tennis?
Not as much tennis. My golf game has really gotten terrible over the last 15 months. It's been just a lot with war college and COVID duty and standing up the new office. But I'm sure I'll get back into tennis probably by the time we get to next summer.
Do you still love it?
I do. Absolutely. I wanted to go to the U.S. Open this year, but as soon as Serena pulled out, I said, well, I'm not going to the U.S. Open if Serena's not going to be there. But it is my hope that Serena plays one more time at Wimbledon or one more time at the U.S. Open, because if she's confirmed, I will be there.
Then you have to let me know, because I'll be there too.
Okay. I like it. That sounds like a great plan.
Yeah, we have to go to. I love tennis. And you know what? The COVID, I don't know. I played, but it hasn't been the same. The games are not the same. It's not the same.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. One last question.
Yes, ma'am.
What can we do to attract more women in the industry? What do you think our industry needs? Or maybe you don't think the construction industry is good for women at all. But I kind of want to leave it open to you. I think it is. It could be great. Regardless if you have kids and so on, there's always a way. But what to attract more women into our industry?
I think it's information, right? So, whether it's college fairs, whether it's podcasts like this one, whether it's news articles, et cetera, I think there's a misinformation or a misunderstanding out there that what it means to be in the construction industry, right? I can tell you that when I told my mother that I was getting my roofing license and I was going to be a roofer, there was a lot of concern with what I was doing with my life. And was I have a midlife crisis? I said, no, Mom, it's not that. I'm not going to be the one on the roof with the shingles. I'm not going to be the one hammering in the nails. I said, it's an excellent business to join on to me being a general contractor. It's great cash flow business. But still, it's been very hard for her to understand, why do I have a daughter that's a roofer? And it's that misinformation of, if you think somebody's a roofing contractor, then you assume they're the one that's sweating to death, working from 6 a.m. until 8 p.m, putting roofs on. And that's not necessarily the case. So I think there's some misinformation out there with women as far as going into the industry, what your role would be. And one of my last jobs before I came to work for the government was in the development field. And in real estate development, yes, there's a construction piece, there's a leasing piece, there's a property management piece, but there's also an investment banking piece. And so you're kind of getting all of these things to go together as a project manager and on the development side. And that's really exciting and fun and empowering as a woman to serve in that industry. So I think if we can just get those kind of messages out, those messaging, kind of show that to young women, coming up through middle school, high school, into college, then I think we'll start to recruit and attract more women to our industry.
Is there something I haven't asked you that you would like to talk about?
I don't think so. I think we've had a great time.
I love it. I want to see you soon. Are you going to the SAMI event?
I am not, but I will look at my calendar and tell you when I can get down to Miami next. I took command of Camp Landing. So, my second full-time job is running Camp Landing right now.
So when you come down, please let us know. We would like let's go out to dinner or something. Absolutely. And for sure, Wimbledon, I have not been there, but we're going.
I like it. So we'll just got to make sure that Serena's healthy next year and then put the date on the calendar.
We're going to have to pray for her.
Yes, absolutely.
Betsy, thank you so much. I'm very grateful for your time, and I am so happy for your success. I can only wish you more and more of that, and a lot of happiness and a lot of blessing and a lot of health as you continue to serve this country in the honorable way that you do. My respect.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Patricia. So great to spend time with you.
God bless you.
All right. Take good care.
Ciao, ciao. You too.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Thriving in Construction, the podcast with Patricia Bonilla. If you enjoyed this episode and you would like to help support the podcast, please share it with others and leave a rating or review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast. If you have any suggestions or any related topics you would like us to tackle in our future episodes, feel free to reach Patricia by sending her a message through the website anchor.fm/thrivinginconstruction or find her on LinkedIn. Thanks again, and we'll see you next week here in Thriving in Construction, the podcast.